Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever thought of human history as just, a random collection of events? Well, today we're diving into some brilliant work by Ryan McLean that fundamentally shifts how we view the relationship between science, religion, human knowledge, and the very concept of time itself. Trust me, this is going to completely change your perspective.
To really set the stakes here, I want you to imagine a scenario, what the author playfully calls an Angela's Explainer scenario. Imagine if we woke up tomorrow morning, every single one of us, and just entirely forgot how to make pancakes, or how to drive a car, or even how to read. We would be in total disaster mode within minutes. Literally, humanity would last maybe 6 minutes before absolute chaos took over, and we'd have to relearn absolutely everything from scratch.
But why doesn't that happen? Well, to understand that, we kind of have to redefine how we think about time. We have to introduce time not just as, clocks ticking away on a wall, but as the ultimate villain of our story. Time is this destructive force that is actively trying to erase all of our homework. It's what causes our own memories to fade as we age, paper to burn, and eventually entire civilizations to collapse. It's constantly trying to destroy the very substrates where our knowledge lives.
And because of that massive threat, we have a grand, incredibly stubborn mechanism to defeat this villain, human civilization. As McLean puts it, civilization is humanity's answer to time. With all of its sprawling books, structured schools, intricate laws, and towering churches, civilization is actually our grand way of fighting back through memory. It's us looking at time and saying, nice try, but we wrote it down, we taught our kids, and we built a library.
All right, let's jump into the first major concept, the primitive pattern, which is really humanity's rhythmic heartbeat of learning.
So, let's look at how humanity first fought back, way before anyone had a PhD or wore a white lab coat. This brilliant little sequence illustrates the basic human homework loop. Think about it. Someone touches a hot fire, gets burned, remembers that incredibly painful experience, corrects their future behavior, and then, this is the crucial part, teaches the next kid not to slap the glowing orange danger flower. Observe, remember, compare, correct, teach. That is the primitive grammar of human knowing.
Now, let's move along our historical timeline and see how this actually builds. Because humanity is constantly upgrading its memory tools to stop the important stuff from just dissolving into mush. We move from oral traditions to writing to institutional bunkers, all the way up to modern science. Each step, it's just a new, far more durable technology to keep our knowledge alive.
Think about it. Before books ever existed, oral culture functioned as a giant human search engine. Knowledge was preserved physically in bodies through rhythms and songs, proverbs and rituals, just to keep it all from vanishing. If you didn't know how to write down which berries were poisonous, well, somebody had to sing a catchy song about it, or turn it into a memorable proverb so the community wouldn't forget. The knowledge literally lived inside the people. Then, wow, writing comes along. And this was a massive upgrade, because a written traceout outlives the speaker. It's honestly like fossilized time travel. You can suddenly hear the thoughts of someone who lived 1,000 years ago. But there is a catch. It requires future readers to interpret it properly. A book can't raise its hand and correct you if you misunderstand it, right? Which means we suddenly needed teachers, context, and traditions to guide the reader.
Which brings us to our next major shift: institutional memory bunkers and surviving civilizational collapse.
Because let's face it, when empires fell and things got incredibly chaotic, knowledge only survived because we built durable institutional memory bunkers to keep it safe. Monasteries, for instance, acted as these emergency bunkers where dedicated scribes literally saved the future by meticulously hand-copying texts while the world outside was falling apart. Later on, medieval universities acted kind of like knowledge relay races. They organized disciplined arguments and turned students into teachers, ensuring that the memory could outlive any single master.
Okay, moving on to a really fascinating part of the explainer: science and religion reconsidered as siblings, not mortal enemies.
This completely shatters the popular myth that science and religion are just natural opposites. When we actually contrast them side by side, we see they're basically running the exact same foundational software, just on different hardware. Science uses lab goggles, peer review, and replication. Religion uses vestments, liturgy, and councils. But at their core, both are highly organized, disciplined systems aiming to preserve truth across generations.
In fact, both of these disciplines fall under the ancient, much broader umbrella of scientia. Now, this doesn't just mean modern laboratory science. It means disciplined knowledge or ordered understanding. Both science and religion utilize very specialized tools to ensure that meaning, truth, and reliable practices survive long after the original witnesses and discoverers are gone.
His Majesty King Bloomyball, Aduyadej,
actually capture this synthesis perfectly. He noted that one needs religion as a guiding principle, and education for both spiritual and material knowledge so life can be sustained. It just goes to show how these forms of knowledge are deeply intertwined mechanisms. They're both working together to sustain human life and potential against the constant erosion of time.
Next up, we have the architecture of correction, focusing on how we identify and fix errors.
Because human beings are, well, notoriously good at making mistakes, every mature knowledge system has to have an architecture of correction. Otherwise, memory just turns into fantasy. Different fields catch their own unique errors in different ways. Law uses precedent and appeals, medicine uses rigorous clinical trials, mathematics relies on ironclad proofs. They don't all use the exact same method, obviously, but they all have rigorous systems in place to ensure fidelity over time.
And here is a hugely important takeaway. Tools must fit their objects. It is a massive category error to demand laboratory evidence for history or theology. I mean, you can't use a microscope to see if a law is just, right? And you certainly cannot prove a math theorem using a blood pressure cuff. Different domains of reality require entirely different tools for correction, but that underlying drive to fix mistakes, that remains exactly the same.
This brings us to regenerating knowledge and the absolute need for embodied action.
You see, we have to understand that just storing a bunch of information in a library or throwing it on a hard drive isn't enough. Knowledge only truly defeats time when it is regenerated. It has to become embodied. Reading a cookbook doesn't automatically make you a chef, right? Not until you've practiced, made some terrible mistakes, and trained your body. A medical textbook has to be transformed into a practicing doctor through a grueling residency and hands-on training.
Connecting right back to that profound wisdom from King Bhumibol we touched on earlier, we see that the ultimate aim of education is exactly this kind of formation. Formation is the bridge. It's where preserved traces, like books, laws, scriptures, are actually internalized by living people. It's how we train individuals to actively use their potential to benefit themselves and society. Because without people embodying the knowledge, those books are just sleeping paper.
So, ultimately, this leaves us with what you might call a master key to human history. From the earliest oral traditions passing down stories around a campfire to the hyper-complex digital networks we use today, civilization itself is one massive shared architecture. It's designed to observe, remember, check for errors, fix them, and teach it all over again. Science labs, courts of law, churches, schools, they are all distinct, yes, but they are totally united in this grand fight against time. I want to leave you with a final, kind of provocative thought to chew on today about your own role in this great civilizational relay race. If civilization is indeed a giant memory machine, carefully constructed to keep us from falling back to zero, what vital knowledge are we failing to regenerate for the next generation right now? What are we forgetting to pass on? Think about what you are carrying forward today.